Today I am going to show you how to create an app prototype in Google Slides. Now I've created one before and here's my example, and this is a homework help app with this logging screen and then additional screens as you go through. Now, how did I get there? I am going to show you step-by-step video of first creating your home screen, your logging screen, using Google Slides. So let's begin. I have opened a blank presentation and I'm going to name it App Prototype. And right now it's not the right dimension. So I'm going to start with the blank presentation, but first I have to set the dimensions so that it fits a screen either of an iPad or an iPhone X. So I'm going to go into File and Page Setup. And in Page Setup, I'm going to change the setup to a custom setup. And I am going to change from inches to pixels. And an iPad screen, which I'm going to design my app for, is 834 by 1112. And an iPhone X will be 375 by 812. So if I click apply, I should see those changes immediately. Okay, there it is. Now I'm going to stick with this white theme, but I'm going to delete all these other boxes by clicking on them and pressing delete. Okay. So I have started with a blank canvas. Now the first thing I'm going to do is set a background color for my home screen, and I think I'm going to stick with the same color throughout the app. So let me go into the background right here in a menu, and I can pick whatever color I want by clicking on the little box and picking any of these options, or I can also go to custom colors and make whatever color I want from the color wheel by changing the hue and transparency. But for today, I'm going to stick with this light gray color. I'm going to press done. I can always switch it by going back here again. So once I create my background color, I'm going to create a logo for my login sign up page. So I'm going to start with adding a shape. Now I'm going to use this as an example. So I'm going to make this square. So I'm going to go into shape. Now how do I find shapes? You can either go into the menu and click on shapes or insert shapes. And you see all the different shapes you can pick from. So I'm going to go to shapes and I'm going to pick a square, and then the little cursor pops up, and anywhere I click and drag, it's going to draw that. So let's see. Let me pick that. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Okay, perfect. So now I have my shape. Now notice when I'm moving the shape, this red line pops up. That shows me exactly when the middle of the page is, if I want it centered. Or again, on the bottom here, now it shows me where the line is in the middle. So I can have it perfectly centered wherever I have the two red lines. So right now, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to turn this shape around because I want to make it look like kind of like in here, like a desk with 4 chairs around it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this shape by pulling on this little circle and turning it around different degrees. Let's see. I'm going to do it right this way. Okay, and maybe I'm going to make it a little smaller. All right. I am happy. If I put it right there, see how it's perfectly in the center? I don't want it in the center right now, but that's a helpful thing to have for the future. Let's see. All right. Now, I don't think it's still straight. Perfect. So once I have this, I can now change the color of my shape or even the borders. So what I'm going to do is I am going to change the color of this shape by going into the paint bucket right in here. I have to make sure my shape is selected, so it is. I'm going to click on the bucket, and just like with the background, I can pick any of these colors that are in here. I can go to custom and create my custom colors, or go to gradient and pick any of these gradient colors. I'm going to stick with this darker gray. Okay. Now that I have that, I would like to add a border around it so that it can stand out a little bit better. So what I can do is, if I have the shape selected, right next to the fill bucket, there is a border color. Right now, the border is selected and there is a color, but it matches the color of the shape. So if I click on it, I can pick any of these colors. So I'm going to click on white and I can barely see it. It's really hard to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go next to it, right next to the border color, there's border weight. It tells you how thick the border is going to be. So I'm going to select, let's see, a 4. Okay, that's a little bit better. If I click on it again, let's see if I put 16. Okay, I think that's too much. So I'm going to go ahead and stick to maybe 8. All right, I like 8. So I'm going to have 8 as my border weight. And then you can also change the border style if you would like to. You can make it into different types of styles, customize them. I'm going to stick to a straight line for that. So there we go. I just showed you how to change a color of a shape using the fill bucket and adding border, changing the weight of the border, and changing the style of the border. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create these little, actually I'm going to create the text inside of this box. So I'm going to call my app Homework Help. So I'm going to go into Insert Text Box, or I can go to the little T right here in the menu. So I'm going to click on that. And then again, the cursor shows up, and wherever I want to type the text, I can always move it later. So I'm going to write homework, and then I'm going to press enter and write help. And right now it's small, you can't really see it. So I'm going to select the text by holding and dragging it. And then I'm going to make it, first of all, I'm going to change the font name. I'm going to pick this Conforta, maybe. I like that font. Okay, and then I'm going to make it much bigger. So I can either click on plus, or I can change it in here and write the size. So let's see, this is 28, how about 40? Maybe 42. Okay, and right now it's black. It's kind of hard to see it. So I'm going to have it selected. I'm going to change the color of it by clicking on text color and changing it to white so it stands out. Perfect. I can also select it and make it bold. So it's a little thicker. I can make it italicized or underlined, whatever I want. And then the final step here would be positioning in the center of the box so that it's easier to navigate through and make this in the center. So if I scroll to the right where there's an align option, I can align so that it's in the center, in the middle of the box, center, and then in the middle. So now see how it's centered inside my box, and now I can move my text box wherever I want it to be. Maybe I'll make it a little bigger. Let's see, 46. I think that's good. So that's one way to add text, okay, into your design. Another way, you can also, before that, you can also space it out if you want. So if you want the space to be a little bit different between the two words, you can do that. There's lots of different options when you play around with text. Another way to add text would be to go into Insert and you go to Word Art. Now this one is a little bit different, but notice what I'm going to do. If I write homework and it says use enter to save, use shift enter for multiple lines. So I want it multiple lines. I'm going to press shift enter, help, and then enter. This one pops up and it's a little bit different. Let me match it so that the color looks, or the font style is the same. But notice that when I have this selected, I can play around a little bit and actually play with the border and the color of the text. I can play with the color of the text on the other one, but this one, I can actually play with the different border colors. So in the regular text, you can't do that, but with this, you can. You can add different border around your text. So that might be somewhat helpful if you want to do something more creative. You can make the text look a certain way. Okay, so that's one way to add the text on top of the other one that I just showed you. But I'm going to stick with this. So my next part is, once I have my text and I have my shape, I'm going to actually add the little chairs. I'm going to show you how to add those little chairs that I have. And I'm going to start with the blue one right here. So if I go to Insert, Shape, I'm going to go ahead and add this little shape right here. Okay. And I'm going to pick so that the color of it is this blue. Okay, it doesn't have to be exactly like my other example. Okay, and I'm gonna add a white border around it, kind of like to match the other one. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it. Perfect. And I want this chair to go right here. Now the problem is that the chair right now is on top of my other shape. So there's a way to put it in the right order so that it goes in the back or behind the shape that I want it to go to. So once I have this shape selected, I can right click or double tap for the options, and all the way over here there's a word that says order. I can either send it all the way to back, which would mean that it's going behind all the shapes that are there, or I can send it backward, which means it's just going behind one layer. So think of it as layers. If I do backward, it's just going to go behind one layer. So it's just going to go behind that text because that layer was created second. If I click on it, send backward again, it's going to go now behind both of the layers. Now from the beginning, if I were to click send to back, it will go behind both of the layers. Okay, so if I want to create that other part, that other white chair, let's see, I can always do control C or command C depending what computer you're using, and command C or command V to make it and make another one. And then I'm going to make this smaller part right here, and I'm going to make that one fully white. And then I'm going to make this go send to back. So order, send to, actually send backward, and order, send backward again. So it goes like that, okay? And then I'm going to create 2 or 3 more. So I'm going to add that to, and then rotate it so it goes behind this chair. Okay. And then I'm going to send all of that to back. And I'm going to pick the color so it's a little different. Okay. So I would repeat the same step for the other 2 chairs. Okay. And the next step would be to create my login and sign up boxes. So the same way I created this shape, I would go into shapes and I would go into find a rectangle. Does your button need to be a rectangle? No, it's just what I'm using. And I have this button right here. I would probably try to match the color of my other background. And I would also do a border. I like things to look uniformed. And then inside, I can either type inside or I can answer or insert a text box, whichever one I want. So I could just write login in here, and then I could make this bigger by clicking on the plus sign. Let's see, and I'm going to change the text to white so you can see it, make it bold, and then put it in the center and in the middle. Okay, so I have my login button, and instead of going ahead and clicking insert shape and creating another one, what I can actually do is I can copy and paste this one and just change the name of it. So I'm going to do that. Let me make sure it's in the middle, and I'm going to click on right click or double tap. You can do copy and paste or control C, control V. And then in this one, I'm going to change the word to the word sign up. Okay. So right now I have my login button and I have my sign up button. Now they're not functioning buttons yet. You can actually click on them and go anywhere because we don't have any other pages. So far I've created my first home screen with a little bit of a logo right here. So I'm going to go ahead and create another page. Now, instead of clicking new slide and just having a blank slide, what I can do is I can just duplicate this slide. So I have a copy of it, and then I don't have to then change the background and do all that stuff. So I'm going to actually right click and click on duplicate slide. Now I have two of the same, and then on the second one, I'm going to delete the parts that I don't need. So this second slide is going to be a username and password page. And I still want to have my logo somewhere, but I don't want to have it this big. So notice how in my example, I made it smaller. So you can actually do that by selecting all of it and grouping it together. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make sure my selector right here, my arrow is selected. And I'm going to drag all of this inside this blue box. And all of these things got highlighted. Once all the things I want to select are highlighted, I'm going to right click and I'm going to click on the word group. Okay? And I grouped it. So now it's all in a group. Now if I pull on a corner, it's all going to get proportionally smaller. Now, including the text does not get smaller, the font, so I'm going to have to fix that in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it right here. So that's fixed. Now I can go ahead and fix my text. So I'm going to ungroup it. I'm going to fix my text and make it, let's see, 20. Oops. That's selected. Let's see, 20. That's probably good. So there we go. So now I just made my logo a little bit smaller and I kept it still in the same proportions without having to duplicate and make it again. So this is going to be my page. When I log in, or if I click on login, I want to go to the login page. And usually in the login page, you have a username and password, maybe forgot password, and you will be able to sign in. So I'm going to actually play around with these buttons that I already have, maybe change it a little bit. So I'm going to take the text out of this and actually put the text above it. Now this is just an example again, so yours does not have to look like this. Username, going to pick the same font. I like to stick with the same font for my work and pick a color, make it bold. Okay, and I'll probably put it in the center and in the middle because it's easier to make sure that it's perfectly in the center. You know, maybe this color isn't the best. So let's do like there we go. And I'm going to copy this. So Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V. And in here I'm going to put password. Okay. And then once I have username, password, I probably need a button that says sign in. Okay, and I might make this button a little smaller so it's a little bit different than my other ones. Okay, perfect. So there you go. Now I have my home screen where I open the app with login and buttons. And then the first one I created is a login page. I could add forget password, whatever I want. Now, how do I actually link this? And how do I make this, when I click on login, how is it going to go into the second slide? So there's a trick. So what I can do actually is I can select whatever button I want it to be a working linking button. So when I press the login, I want to go to the second slide. I want it to go to that slide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this button, the login button, and I'm going to right click. And do you see the word that says link? Okay, so I'm going to link this. Now, normally you would think of a link like a website address, which you can put in here, but we're not linking it to a website. We're actually going to link it to a slide in this presentation, and it gives you an option right below right here. And if I click on it, I can link it to whichever slide I want it to go to. Now, I never really want to do next slide or last slide because their slides are going to be changing. So I want to link it to actual slide number. So when I press login, it should go to slide number 2. So I'm going to click on slide 2. And then I'm going to click on apply. Okay, so now when I click on here, it's going to go into slide 2. And you can see that there is a, it shows you right here. Now, how do I know if it's actually working? I can put my app into present mode right here on the top. So let me do that. Okay, and if I have it in present mode, if I click on the word login, do you see how the little hand hovers over it? That shows me that that button is a linkable button. So I'm going to click on it and it takes me to the second page. So there you have it. This is how I just linked my first button. One more time, how did I do it? I selected the box, I right click and I clicked on the word link, and right now it's linked, but I picked slides in the presentation and I picked slide number 2. You might need to use your arrow to get slide number 2 and then apply. And there you have it. This is how you link buttons in your presentation. I hope this was helpful and more videos are coming soon.